Madden holiday is here and we will play all night. Calling sick and sound sincere, in tackles will delight. The fridge is packed with drink and meat, the taste of victory sure is sweet.
Okay, so in previous years when I did this, I dedicated one video per each day of the draft, and I included a off-season recap video as well to act as sort of a draft preview, but yeah, due to time constraints and obvious things if you saw my last video, that's not going to be happening this year. Instead, we're just going to have basically one big video. I'm recording this bit before the draft has started, so if anything happens, I'll talk about that when I recap the first round, which is the first day. Not really helping matters is the fact that, well, not a lot happened during this off-season, or at least during this portion of the off-season. I guess the first big thing around this neck of the woods would be that the Vikings signed Kyler Murray. I'm indifferent on this, really. It depends. Like, yes, Kyler Murray put up some really good numbers 5 years ago, but, again, he's been banged up since then. Again, if you believe Arizona, he has problems focusing. Like, he says he wants to be in Minnesota, but okay. That doesn't change the fact that he had major knee surgery a couple of years ago. He had surgery on a broken foot just this past year. He's had wrist problems. And because of his height, those are things that are going to play a bit more into the factor than, even running J.J. McCarthy again. And I understand McCarthy had his problems last year, but still, I don't know if this is necessarily the boon a lot of the experts seem to think it is. Tua Tagovailoa signed with the Atlanta Falcons, which just kind of feels like a lateral move. Kirk Cousins went to the Raiders, which also seems just kind of like a lateral move. Max Crosby was traded from the Raiders to the Ravens until he wasn't, and then the Ravens signed Trey Hendrickson. So yeah, that was weird. And then came the surprising move of the New York Giants trading Dexter Lawrence to the Cincinnati Bengals. Not so much in that Dexter Lawrence was traded. He had been requesting a trade for at least a month, so that wasn't the surprise. But Cincinnati normally doesn't do things like this. They're known for being cheapskates, and here they are. They just traded for a big-budget defensive lineman. I have to wonder if Mike Brown maybe sold a small portion of the team. Again, that's just kind of how out of the blue this was. Rounding things off, the Dolphins traded Jalen Waddle to the Denver Broncos for their first-round draft pick. And the Eagles eventually shipped A.J. Brown to the New England Patriots, but that dovetails into the whole Mike Vrabel situation, which I'm just not going to talk about. Adding to all of that is the fact that the draft this year is pretty underwhelming. It was already not a quarterback-rich draft, but it just seems like overall playmakers and everything is just really lacking. I mean, yeah, you have Jeremiah Love and the likes of that, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot of linemen, offensive and defensive, going in this round. So, yeah, not too much here. There's a lot of trades expected, though none have been announced yet, so in all likelihood, those will be tackled during the recap. All right, so obviously we're just going to take a little break here, and then we'll come back to recap night one of the NFL Draft. I mean, we already know who's going first.
We drove an engine 200,000 grueling miles using new Mobil 1. Then we ripped it apart. What did we find? Nothing. Nothing. Virtually no engine wear. What kept these vital engine parts like new? This part. New Advanced Formula Mobil 1. It keeps your engine running like new.
For one special day, Siemens salutes you, our loyal customers, for making us one of the largest furniture retailers in the country. This Wednesday from 10 till 10, we're offering a one-day opportunity to buy the best selection of furniture at the best possible prices with our best financing offer. Everything throughout the store is reduced to some of the lowest prices of the year. And with no down payment and no interest for one full year, you'll be getting the best furniture value anywhere, guaranteed.
Why are more people choosing Chevy Lumina?
You're getting a stylish car, you're getting a safe car, you're getting a good value.
I put my foot on the gas and wham, it took off.
The Chevy Lumina was very sleek and stylish and contemporary looking.
Chevy Lumina is $2,000 less than Ford Taurus.
Introducing the Boston Carvers, the hot hand-carved sandwich from Boston Market. Hearth honey ham, or double-sauced meatloaf Boston Carvers. Our famous chicken, or rotisserie roasted turkey breast. Stacked high on a French or honey wheat roll. New Boston Carver sandwiches from Boston Market. Carving out a better sandwich.
Okay, so round one or night one of the NFL draft is in the books. There was one really big surprise, another pretty big surprise, and then there were some trades, but that was more towards the end of the draft, so things start to get a little jumbled there. That's what happened. Obviously, we're starting with the first pick, which was the Las Vegas Raiders taking Fernando Mendoza. Everyone already knew that, so not really much to say there. After that, the New York Jets had the second pick. They chose David Bailey, the edge rusher from Texas Tech. Then we had our first surprise of the draft as the Arizona Cardinals elected to take Jeremiah Love at running back. This is surprising as the Cardinals actually have a fairly high supply of running backs right now. Yes, James Conner has been often injured, but still, they just traded for Tyler Algier during the offseason, so you'd think that he would start to get most of the carries. It doesn't really make a lot of sense to make a play for Jeremiah Love at this point, especially with the other glaring needs they have. Returning to the draft, the Tennessee Titans were fourth, and they selected Cornell Tate, the wide receiver from Ohio State. The Giants were fifth. They selected Arvell Reese, the edge rusher from Ohio State. We then had a trade between the Cleveland Browns and the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs selected Mansour Delane, a defensive back from LSU. After that, the Washington Commanders took Sonny Styles, the middle linebacker from Ohio State. The New Orleans Saints took Jordan Tyson, the wide receiver from Arizona State. And then the Cleveland Browns, who had swapped picks with the Kansas City Chiefs, took tackle Spencer Fano from Utah. After that, there were some reports that the Lions were trying to trade up with the Giants. However, that never really came to fruition. And the New York Giants selected Miami tackle Francis Manoa. Apologies if I mispronounced that last name there. After that, there was another trade as Miami and Dallas swapped picks. The Dallas Cowboys selected Caleb Downs, the defensive back from Ohio State, and the Miami Dolphins selected David Proctor, the offensive lineman from Alabama. And then we had the doozy. The Los Angeles Rams selected Ty Simpson, the quarterback from Alabama. Now, in some ways, this does make sense. Matthew Stafford's up there in age. He really is at the end of his career at this point. They have him signed for 2 years, but who knows how long that could really be. So, again, drafting a quarterback is not entirely out of the ordinary here, but to do this in the first round did feel like a bit of a reach. It was thought that Simpson was probably a late first-round quarterback at best. He did put up some decent numbers early on in Alabama, but then he got injured. He tried to play through the injury, and that's kind of why he fell off towards the end of the season. He did have an impressive pro day, but still, this is kind of a shock that this happened at this point. So, yeah, a real surprise there. The Baltimore Ravens were up next, and they took the Penn State guard, Ola Vega Ewe. Again, apologies if I butchered that name. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers were up next. They took Reuben Bain Jr., the edge rusher from Miami. The Jets had their second pick. They took Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end from Oregon. After that, we had the Detroit Lions taking Blake Miller, a tackle from Clemson. The Minnesota Vikings were up next, and they took defensive tackle Caleb Banks from Florida. After that, it was the Carolina Panthers who took Georgia offensive lineman Monroe Frayling. And then we had another trade as Dallas and Philadelphia swapped picks. The Eagles would take Mekhi Lemon, the wide receiver from USC. The Pittsburgh Steelers were up next, and they took Arizona State tackle Max Ienhanker. After that, it was the LA Chargers who took edge rusher Akeem Mesidor from Miami. After that, it was the Dallas Cowboys pick that they acquired from Philadelphia. They drafted edge rusher Malachi Lawrence from Central Florida. After that, we had the Cleveland Browns taking Casey Concepcion, the wide receiver from Texas A&M. The Chicago Bears were up after that, and they drafted safety Dylan Tianeman from Oregon. And this is where we started to get a whole bunch of the trades, so bear with me, things are going to get a little confusing. Okay, so first off, Buffalo swapped picks with Houston, and then they swapped the pick they got from Houston, which was further down in the draft, with New England to be second to last in the draft. And then Buffalo traded again with Tennessee, who traded back into the first round. So yeah, the Bills traded out of the first round is what I'm trying to say there. With the pick they acquired from Buffalo, the Houston Texans selected guard Keelan Rutledge from Georgia Tech. Okay, and now we have another trading out of the first round as Miami swapped places with San Francisco. San Francisco traded down, and then they traded again with New York, who traded back into the first round. So the New York Jets had 3 picks in the first round. So they had almost as much as they had in 2000, where they had 4 picks in the first round. Anyway, with the pick the Dolphins acquired from the 49ers, they selected defensive back Chris Johnson from San Diego State. After that, the New England Patriots selected Utah tackle Caleb Lomu. Then finally, a team that wasn't involved in a trade here, Kansas City selected Clemson defensive tackle Peter Woods. It's here where we had the Tennessee Titans pick that they traded into the first round for. They took defensive end Keldrick Falk from Auburn. We then had the New York Jets pick, which was Omar Cooper, the wide receiver from the University of Indiana. And then closing out the round, the Seattle Seahawks took Notre Dame running back Jadarian Price. Okay, I think I may have jumbled some of those up towards the end. I do know Seattle picked last, though, so I at least got that one right. So yeah, that was the first round, and yeah, that does kind of shape up this draft pretty simply here. It's a draft really bereft of a lot of playmakers, so you're seeing a lot of linemen, edge rushers, a couple linebackers, not so much in the way of, wide receivers or running backs taken. I mean, we had a few, but not as much as we have in recent years. So, yeah, I do expect things to maybe start picking up in the next few rounds. Obviously, with some of the teams trading into the first round, it's made it a tiny bit easier. Also, you had teams like Green Bay and Jacksonville who didn't get picks in the first round because they already traded them. So, again, we've had some interesting facts there. So, so things are shaping up for a rather interesting night, too. So, we'll see you there.
How could you drop that?
Sorry, man.
What were you thinking about?
It's a new lotto thing. Now you can take your winnings up front or get them paid out over time. Coach says you should take the money up front. You're being traded tomorrow.
Now you can take your payout all at once or over time. New York Lotto. Hey, you never know.
Attention Lotto players. Match just 3 of 6 winning numbers in March and win a Lotto Loot instant cash game ticket worth cash or a chance at $1 million.
New York Lotto. Hey, you never know.
Good news. At Bally Total Fitness, you can work out for just $19 a month. Just think, for only $19, you can get the attention you deserve. And do something about the attention you don't want. So shape up. Get noticed. Just call 1-800-FITNESS. Do it now.
Wishbone. Salads wish for the taste of Dijon. What Dijon does for the classic country cuisine of France, it now does for salad dressing. Wishbone's new classic Dijons. Salads wish for Wishbone.
Good evening from CBS News. This is Newsbreak. International experts say the fire is out at the Chernobyl nuclear plant, but radiation continues to leak from it. The Soviets are now trying to build a cement tomb around the plant's reactor to seal it. NASA has agreed that independent experts will oversee the redesign of solid rocket booster joints. It was a flaw in one of those joints that is believed to have caused the Challenger explosion.
Sherry, which underarm stick did you want?
Anyone. They're all the same.
No, they're not. Arid Solid is different. Unlike ordinary deodorant sticks, Arid Solid fights both odor and wetness. That's Arid's complete protection. Arid fights wetness ordinary sticks can't.
Wildfires whipped by gusting winds have burned out 20,000 acres of land in North Carolina, and hundreds of residents are now being told to leave their homes. And in Los Angeles, actor Herschel Bernardi has died of a heart attack. He was 62. I'm Betty Ann Bowser, CBS News, Washington. More news later on this CBS station.
Okay, so night 2 of the NFL draft is in the books. This covers rounds 2 and 3. So, yeah, pretty much this went right through. There were a lot more trades in this one. A lot of them were very last minute, so it was kind of annoying because I had to jump around and try to make these notes. So again, things could be a little jumbled. I don't mean for them to be, but that's where it could wind up going. Starting things off, it was the San Francisco 49ers with the pick I believe they acquired from either the Titans or the Jets towards the end of round 1. They selected wide receiver Dejon Stribling. After that was the Arizona Cardinals, who selected guard Chase Bezantis. After that, it was the Bills, who selected edge rusher TJ Parker. We then had a trade after that between Las Vegas and Houston. They swapped picks, and also Las Vegas got Houston's pick in the 3rd round, which we'll get to when we cover there. Anyway, Houston selected Caden McDonald, a defensive tackle from Ohio State. The Giants selected defensive back Colton Hood. The Raiders selected Tavon Stukes, a defensive back. After that, the Browns selected wide receiver Denzel Boston. The Chiefs selected edge rusher Mason Thomas. The Bengals selected another edge rusher in Cassius Howell. The Saints selected defensive tackle Kristen Miller. The Dolphins selected Jacob Rodriguez, a linebacker from Texas Tech. And then we had another trade between Detroit and the New York Jets as they swapped picks. Detroit selected an edge rusher, Derek Moore. The Ravens were up next. They selected an edge rusher in Zion Young. The Buccaneers selected Josiah Trotter, a linebacker. We then had another trade, this one between Indianapolis and Pittsburgh. The Steelers will wind up taking Jeremy Bernard, the wide receiver from Alabama. The Falcons selected defensive back Avian Terrell, reuniting with his brother AJ, who they took a couple years ago. We then had another trade, this one between Minnesota and Carolina. The Panthers took defensive tackle Lee Hunter. It was then that the New York Jets drafted with the pick they got from the Detroit Lions. They took defensive back D'Angelo Pons. With the pick they acquired from the Panthers, the Vikings selected linebacker Jake Golday. The Green Bay Packers selected defensive back Brandon Cisse from South Carolina. The Colts selected linebacker C.J. Allen with the pick that they had traded the Steelers for. The Eagles then took Vanderbilt tight end Eli Stowers. We then had another trade between the Chargers and the Patriots. The Patriots selected Gabe Yakas, the edge rusher from Illinois. The Jacksonville Jaguars came up and they selected Nate Berkter, a tight end. The Bears were after that. They took center Logan Jones. We then had a trade between San Francisco and Cleveland, with the Browns moving back into the 2nd round. It was there they took defensive back Emmanuel McNeil Warren from Toledo. The Texans then took tight end Marlon Klein. It was then we had another trade with the Tennessee Titans moving back into the 2nd round and the Bears moving out. The Titans would select Anthony Hill Jr., a linebacker. The Rams selected tight end Max Clare. We then had yet another trade, this one between Denver and Buffalo, with Denver moving out of the 2nd round and Buffalo moving into the 2nd round. The Bills would take defensive back Davison Igbinosun. The round then concluded with the Chargers selecting center Jake Slaughter and the Seahawks selecting safety Bud Clark. Like I said, a lot of trades to try to keep track of. A lot of them kind of popped up last second, so I didn't notice them until they were about to happen, or until they just happened and suddenly this other team was picking there, so I had to completely rewrite everything. Again, that's why everything looks a little scatterbrained here. Overall, a lot of edge rushers taken. We're going to see another big run on tight ends and centers happening in the next round as well. The edge rushing is going to probably cool down a little bit. You'll see more interior linemen and interior linebackers as we move on after the break to round 3.
How can I be a worthy mother when all I want is my children's cereal?
Kellogg's Frosted Flakes just for kids? Brave adults say no.
My wife said she'd do anything to help. I told her to get me a spoon.
Now more than ever, these adults are stepping forward to admit they love that sweet, delicious crunch.
My passion finally led to a marriage of convenience. He's a milkman.
Come on, give in. Frosted Flakes have the taste adults have grown to love. They're great.
You go to pass a slow-moving motorist. The road ahead appears clear. Suddenly, a semi comes out of nowhere. Which would you rather have for your defense? Dual airbags, or what's been called the best V6 engine in the world? How about both? The Maxima from Nissan. Lease the 96 Maxima GXE with automatic transmission for $0 down and $289 a month for 36 months.
The third round finally saw another quarterback go off the board as the Cardinals selected Carson Beck from Georgia. We then had the Broncos finally making their pick with the pick they swapped around with the Bills. They selected defensive tackle Tyler Oneidem. The Raiders then selected edge rusher Kieran Crawford. The Eagles selected tackle Markel Bell. Okay, this is the pick that the Bears traded with the Titans. They selected tight end Sam Roosh. We then had the pick that the 49ers swapped with Cleveland, so the 49ers selected edge rusher Romello Wright. After that, the Commanders took wide receiver Antonio Williams. After that, the Bengals took defensive back Decario Davis. The Saints were up next. They took tight end Oscar Delph. We then had another trade, this one between the Cleveland Browns and the New York Giants. The Giants selected Malachi Fields, a wide receiver. Now, technically, that also meant that the Browns didn't have a pick for the rest of the third round. However, that would not hold firm. After that, the Dolphins took wide receiver Caleb Douglas. The Steelers then drafted another quarterback, this being Drew Aller from Penn State. We then had a trade between Tampa Bay and Green Bay, with the Packers selecting Chris McClellan, a defensive tackle. The Colts then selected safety A.J. Hawley. The Falcons selected wide receiver Zachariah Branch. The Ravens then selected wide receiver Jacoby Lane. The Jaguars then selected defensive tackle Albert Regis. The Vikings then took defensive tackle Dominique Orange. The Panthers took wide receiver Chris Brazell II. We then had Tampa Bay taking wide receiver Ted Hurst. And of course, that Tampa Bay pick was the pick they had swapped with Green Bay. The Steelers then took defensive back Dalen Everett. We then had another trade which saw the LA Chargers trade out of the third round and the Cleveland Browns trade back in order to draft Austin Barber, a tackle. The Dolphins then selected tight end Will Kekmarek. The Jaguars then selected guard Emmanuel Pregnon. The Bears then selected wide receiver Xavier Thomas. The 49ers selected running back Kalen Black. The Texans then selected center Trey Zune III. The Cowboys then selected edge rusher Jason Barron. The Rams followed that up by drafting tackle Keegan Trust. The Dolphins then drafted wide receiver Chris Bell. The Patriots then drafted tight end Eli Raridan. We then had another trade, this one between Seattle and Pittsburgh. That saw Pittsburgh select Jermaine Dunker, a guard. And then there was another trade, however, this one involved a player, as the Vikings sent defensive edge rusher Jalen Hargrave to the Philadelphia Eagles and got their pick late in the third round. So the Vikings wound up with back-to-back picks in the third round. They selected tackle Caleb Tiernan from Northwestern, and then safety Jacoby Thomas from Miami. The Seahawks then drafted defensive back Julian Neal, and then finish off the round, the Jaguars selected safety Jalen Husky. So yes, that concludes night 2 of the NFL draft. Obviously tomorrow it's day 3 because it starts very early afternoon on the East Coast. But it's pretty much throughout the day and into the evening as opposed to at night. So it is strange that it goes night 1, night 2, then day 3. But we're only going to cover the full 4th round, and then after that it'll just kind of be noteworthy picks throughout the rest of the way. Again, just to kind of keep things nice and slim, hopefully. So, after the break, we'll be back for the final day of the NFL Draft.
If someone you know is trying to make gravy by pouring water on ordinary dry dog food, he's fishing for trouble. Gaines Gravy Train makes the gravy your dog is craving. Ordinary dry just gets watered down. Gravy Train dog food makes thick, delicious, real beef gravy. Nope, ordinary dry won't make gravy. Not with all the water in the world. Gravy Train makes the gravy your dog is craving.
The winds of change are here. Haineswear, clothes for a casual world. Just wait till we get our hands on you.
Count many lotions have you tried?
About 1 million lotions.
Until I tried Jergens Ultra Healing Lotion.
Why Jergens?
It works with your skin, not just on it.
It works with your skin?
It penetrates to heal dry skin from within.
And it helps my skin seem to retain its own natural moisture.
This is great lotion.
I love the way it makes my skin feel.
It's silky, it's smooth, like cashmere.
So who's good to your skin?
Jergens, Jergens, Jergens.
Feel this.
Ultra Healing Lotion, another beautiful idea from today's Jergens.
You think you know your husband? She thought she knew hers.
Marriage is built on trust.
He told her his first wife was dead.
Your husband has not been fully honest with you. She's alive.
Now 2 women married to the same man
I had my children taken away from me. Carl has told them that you're dead.
must rescue the children he abducted.
Nothing's gonna stop me.
Lindsay Wagner, Deborah Ferrantino,
This woman is trying to kidnap my children.
That was our mom, wasn't it?
and Barbara Babcock.
It is not over!
A Mother's Instinct, Wednesday.
Okay, so round 4 again is going to be the last round we do every pick for. And then we'll kind of be hitting on some notable ones throughout rounds 5, 6, and 7. Now that being said, this third day of the draft still had quite a few trades. In fact, I was surprised by how many trades it had. I don't normally see this much trading in the later rounds. So yeah, there were still teams trying to move up to find someone or something. So yeah, again, sometimes this is going to look a little scattershot. I did my best to keep track of everything. I'm still not entirely sure I did. In fact, round 4 actually opened up with a trade as the Bills and Raiders swapped picks. It didn't really mean too terribly much. The Raiders selected Dramon McCoy, the defensive back who fell so far in the draft mainly because it turned out he has a degenerative knee condition. As for the Bills, well, they selected tackle Jude Bowery. The Jets were up and they selected defensive tackle Darrell Jackson Jr. After that, it was the Cardinals who selected defensive tackle Caleb Proctor. After that, the Los Angeles Chargers selected wide receiver Brennan Thompson, and then the Houston Texans selected guard Febechi Nwewu. Apologies if I mispronounced that name again. After that, we had the San Francisco 49ers taking Grayson Halton, a defensive tackle from Oklahoma. Then the Denver Broncos got another draft pick. They selected running back Jonah Coleman. After that, the Chiefs selected defensive back Jayden Kennedy. And then we had a big trade as the Jets traded their remaining draft picks in the round to the Steelers in order to move up and take Clemson quarterback Cade Klubnik. After that, the Broncos took tackle Cage Casey. The Cowboys took tackle Drew Shelton. The Colts took guard Jalen Farmer. The Cowboys took Devin Moore, a cornerback. The Ravens selected wide receiver Elijah Surratt. That was followed by the Buccaneers taking defensive back Keontae Scott. And then we had another trade, this one between the Chargers and Texans. They swapped picks. The Chargers took tackle Travis Burke. That was followed by the Lions taking edge rusher Jimmy Rolder. The Jaguars then took edge rusher Wesley Williams. The Packers then took edge rusher Danai Denisetin. The Steelers then took wide receiver Caden Wiegen, who's going to function more as a punt returner. The Raiders then took running back Mike Washington Jr., and then the Texans, with the pick they swapped places with the Chargers, took linebacker Wade Woodaz. The Bears were up next, and they took defensive back Malik Muhammad. After that, the Bills had back-to-back picks, taking wide receiver Skylar Bell and linebacker Caleb Elarms-Orr. The Bengals then used one of the 2 picks they got from the Jets to take center Connor Lew. The Panthers selected defensive back Will Lee III. The Dolphins took linebacker Trey Moore. The Chargers selected safety Genesis Smith. The Saints took guard Jeremiah Wright. The Ravens took tight end Matthew Hibner. The Falcons took linebacker Kendall Daniels. The Colts took linebacker Bryce Betcher. Apologies again if I butchered that last name. After that, the Saints took North Dakota State wide receiver Bryce Lance. After that, the Dallas Cowboys took edge rusher L.T. Overton. The Miami Dolphins took linebacker Kyle Lewis. The San Francisco 49ers took Ephesian Cyrock, a defensive back from Washington. And then the Bengals closed out the round with the second pick they acquired from the Jets to take wide receiver Colby Young. There was one other trade, as that Hibner drafting by the Ravens was a result of a trade with the 49ers that saw the 49ers move into the 5th round to take one of the 3 draft picks the Ravens had there. Sorry for missing it, but sometimes these things happen when I'm not really paying attention or I'm going to the bathroom or something, and, well, that was one of the cases here. This happened a lot more towards the end of the draft. So, yeah, it was definitely kind of interesting. Again, the Klubnik choice by the Jets was definitely a fascinating one. The fact that they also traded up to get it means that someone else was interested in him, but I can't imagine who. I mean, Klubnik was only mostly good at Clemson. He wasn't exactly great, and I don't know if he's necessarily starting quarterback material for the NFL at the moment. And with that, we're going to move on to the 5th round, where the trades are definitely going to get more aggravating. That being said, we started off relatively easy with the Texans taking safety Kamari Ramsey. The Titans then took guard Fernando Carmona. And then the Cardinals took wide receiver Reggie Virgil. Now, I thought I had set up something interesting, as I had noticed that the Browns basically had 4 of the next, I want to say, 7 picks. And then the Browns proceeded to trade 2 of those picks away. So, never mind, really. The first one, they took center Patrick Braystreet. The second one that they traded to the Seahawks was Bo Stevens, a guard. I did warn you that this was going to get aggravating. The next Browns pick was linebacker Justin Jefferson. Yeah, that wasn't funny at all. And then they traded their next pick to the Broncos, who drafted tight end Justin Jolly. The Packers then took center Yeager Burton from Kentucky. After that, the Vikings took tight end Max Breederson from Michigan. However, they're going to end up playing him at fullback. He's basically going to be the replacement for the retiring C.J. Ham. The Steelers then swapped picks with the Chiefs, who drafted running back Emmett Johnson from Nebraska. The Vikings then had another pick, and they chose defensive back Charles Demings. Now, the Jaguars were supposed to have back-to-back picks here. However, they traded one of them to the Titans. The Jaguars would take tight end Tanner Koziel. Again, I apologize for butchering that pronunciation. And the Titans immediately followed by taking Penn State running back Nicholas Singleton. Now, the Bills were supposed to have back-to-back picks, but they traded one of them to the Lions, so the Bills only took safety Jalen Kilgore. The Lions then took wide receiver Kendrick Law. This was followed by the Ravens actually having back-to-back picks, taking Josh Cuevas, a tight end, and Adam Randall, a running back. And then with the pick they got from the Lions, the Bills took defensive tackle Zane Durant. And then rounding things off, I would of course be remiss if I didn't mention that the Eagles drafted North Dakota State quarterback Cole Payton. Like I said, you can start seeing how some of these trades are just affecting things. Again, I thought it would be funny to have, the Browns go 4 picks in a row. And then they didn't. They traded 2 of their picks. And then the Bills traded 2 of their picks. And the Jaguars traded 2. It's just like, I'm trying to, and again, it would happen when I wasn't watching. And so I thought, okay, there's back-to-back picks here. And then suddenly there weren't. And it's like, no announcement was made. I was listening to the broadcast. None of this was being paid attention to. They're still harping on some other thing I can't quite remember. Or maybe they were throwing to commercials. Again, it was just really aggravating. Anyway, we're going to take a nice little break here and then close out the draft. But there'll still be plenty of trades to keep track of, although not so many in the last round.
You a little tired of freezer-burned sausage links? You don't get that with Jimmy Dean's Heat and Serve. It's flavor sealed, keeps the freezer burn out, and the good country flavor in. Jimmy Dean's Heat and Serve. Flavor sealed for country goodness.
On the next Entertainment Tonight, the truth about Michael Jackson and Lisa Marie's divorce. Spike Lee heard it all.
Mike's feeling good. Feeling very good.
Then exclusive Princess Di in the scandalous movie that will blow the top off Buckingham Palace. Plus, see how Super Bowl stud Steve Young is stealing Superman's woman, Terry Hatcher. And meet the psychic who claims he can communicate with the dead.
It's okay. She's with you.
On Entertainment Tonight.
At 7:30 on New York's Channel 2.
If you know someone who's going to be in a New York hospital this year, this is one phone number you'd want. Because there's something every patient should know. The people you think are nurses may not be nurses at all. Many New York hospitals are replacing real nurses with unlicensed, minimally trained assistants. Make sure you ask for a real nurse. Ask for an RN. For more information on what to ask, call 1-800-521-7094.
Starting off the 6th round, the Browns used a pick acquired for the Broncos to draft Arkansas quarterback Taylon Green. You know, just as you thought that maybe the Browns had turned the corner and started doing things right, they drafted another quarterback that they really don't need at this juncture. After that, the Cardinals took linebacker Carson Sharar. The Tennessee Titans then took defensive tackle Jackie Marshall. And then we had a trade between the Raiders and Buccaneers that resulted in the Buccaneers drafting tight end Bauer Sharp. At one point in the 6th round, the Giants had back-to-back picks and didn't trade them. Instead, they used them on tackle J.C. Davis and linebacker Jack Kelly. The Raiders then used the pick they swapped with the Bucs to draft Oregon wide receiver Malik Benson. The Jaguars also drafted a wide receiver in Josh Cameron from Baylor. Some of these are going to be out of order, just again because these trades kept catching me off guard, so I'm still not entirely sure what came after this in the right order. Anyway, the Rams drafted wide receiver C.J. Daniels. The Vikings drafted Wake Forest running back DeMont Claiborne. The Packers drafted Alabama defensive back Damani Jackson. The Lions drafted defensive tackle Skylar Gill Howard. The Ravens broke the special teams barrier by drafting punter Ryan Eckley from Michigan State. The Colts drafted edge rusher Caden Curry. And then the Packers made a trade with the Seahawks at the end of the round, basically giving them their last 2 draft picks in exchange for that last pick, which they used on kicker Trace Mack from Florida. Moving on to the final round, the Cardinals opened things up by drafting Jayden Williams, an offensive tackle from Mississippi. After that, the Cowboys drafted wide receiver Anthony Smith from East Carolina. The Saints moved up in a trade with the Raiders to draft cornerback TJ Hall from Iowa. The Bills drafted Toriano Pride, a quarterback from Missouri. The Bengals got tight end Jack Endries. After a while, the Jets drafted safety VJ Payne. The Raiders used the pick they swapped with the Saints to draft defensive tackle Brendan Cleveland from North Carolina State. The Pittsburgh Steelers selected Eli Heidenreich of the Naval Academy. Heidenreich is a Pittsburgh native. The Falcons drafted tackle Ethan Oniawa from Ohio State. The Rams drafted Tim Keenan III, a defensive tackle from Alabama. The Jaguars got an edge rusher in Zach DeFree. The Vikings had back-to-back picks, but then they traded one of the Patriots, who selected Texas Tech quarterback Baron Morton. The Vikings then followed that up by selecting Cincinnati center Gavin Gerhardt. The Seahawks took defensive back Andre Fuller, the Broncos took defensive back Miller Scott, the Browns took tight end Carson Ryan, and the Chiefs traded with the Steelers to draft Garrett Nussmeier, the quarterback from LSU, who had been experiencing some injury problems, so that's why he fell the way he did in the draft. The next 4 picks were then made by the Ravens and Eagles. The Ravens started off by drafting defensive tackle Rayshawn Benny. The Eagles drafted defensive tackle Uar Bernard from Nigeria. They then also drafted edge rusher Keyshawn James Newby. And then the Ravens drafted Northwestern guard Evan Bierstein. The final 3 picks were the Seahawks using the pick they acquired from the Packers to draft defensive back Michael Dansby. And then the Broncos held the last 2 picks. They took Utah tight end Dolan Bentley, and then Mr. Relevant for this year was Red Murdoch, linebacker from the State University of New York at Buffalo. Overall, when you get to the last 2 rounds of the draft, it's basically kind of seeing who gets drafted and who doesn't. And so there were a few notable undrafted players. Probably the biggest of all was Diego Pavia, the Vanderbilt quarterback and Heisman finalist. He was basically kind of done in because he's just not very tall. And yeah, I mean, he is almost the size of Kyler Murray, but he doesn't have quite the arm strength. So he also has a little bit of a mouth on him, so I think that also kind of got him into a little bit of trouble. Other undrafted players included Miller Moss, the former USC and Louisville quarterback who signed with the Bears as a free agent. Luke Altmaier, the Illinois quarterback, who at one point was fairly highly regarded as a top pick in the draft. Jalen Walthall, a wide receiver from Incarnate Word, who signed with the Texans. Joey Aguilar, the Tennessee quarterback, who signed with the Jaguars. Oklahoma running back Jaden Ott, who signed with the Chiefs. Likewise, the Chiefs signed inside lineman Josh Thompson from LSU. The Miami Dolphins signed former South Dakota State and Iowa quarterback Mark Gronowski. The New York Jets signed Wyoming running back Sam Scott. And perhaps most oddly humorous of all, despite the much ballyhooed hype, not one of Bill Belichick's North Carolina players was drafted. Yeah, just an odd little quirk there. So, again, given everything they came in with, how Bill Belichick was going to prepare these guys for the NFL, Nothing. Okay, so we'll be back after the break. I'll give my overall thoughts on the draft and a few teams I thought did things right, a few who did things wrong, and then we'll wrap things up.
How do you like what we've done with this place?
Yeah, we really have come a long way in here.
You remember those old beanbag chairs? Oh, man.
We wanted something really different, so we went to Pier 1.
Rugs, lamps, stuff for the walls, everything.
We kept finding exactly what we were looking for at Pier 1.
Great stuff.
We found pillows and dishes, great furniture.
We also found pottery and candles, and we found a great new look for our living room, too.
Pretty cool, huh?
Find the good things you're looking for at Pier 1 Imports for a change.
Get off the weight loss roller coaster and get into Weight Watchers. Register free and get your copy of Mealtime Classics free with over 100 taste-tempting recipes to help you lose weight, like burgers, pasta, even tacos. Call for a Weight Watchers near you. Register free, get your free Mealtime Classics, and let Weight Watchers help you get off the roller coaster.
It was on Christmas Eve,
April 1st.
9:30 in the morning.
We had a pretty incredible accident in our Saturn.
True story.
We were making a left-hand turn.
All of a sudden, there was this taxi cab hit us broadside.
Rear-ended me at 70.
I did a 360. We went catapulting across the street.
We rolled down a mountain 80 feet.
We went into a ravine and flipped 8 times.
I wasn't really counting on the way down.
And lost my shoes.
I think I was very lucky to be in a Saturn.
I survived.
I survived.
I walked away. Without my shoes, but I walked away.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Hi, I'm Happy Gary of Happy Gary's Auto Mall, and I'm giving cars away. You like this car, but you prefer something in white? Take this car. You like white, but you don't like cars? Take my office. I'm free.
New York Lotto. Hey, you never know.
Tonight, Bruce Willis in the action-adventure that will heat up your winter. The box office smash guaranteed to blow you right out of your seat. Bruce Willis in Die Hard 2, tonight on CBS. Due to some violent content, parental discretion is advised.
So, my thoughts overall on the NFL draft. Well, in terms of presentation, they tried to shorten things up a little bit by having fewer time between draft picks, but I don't think it really made that much of a difference. Again, I think part of the problem is you keep showing commercial breaks in between everything, and that's what eats up the time. Not to mention, I appreciate they try to do things. I like bringing out the legends to, do the picks and the guest pickers and everything like that, as well as the international pickers. But you gotta tell them to keep things short. We had a few guys go out there and just kind of ramble, and it's like, just get to the pick already. Okay, you could thank the host city, you could thank the NFL, you could thank the team, but that should be it. Like, no more. We don't need story. This isn't story time. This is, announcing draft picks. I just wish that would be kind of the things they would do. Likewise, again, it would be nice if the people presenting this occasionally did talk about these trades. Like I said, I would be watching things, and then suddenly different teams were in the lineup spot, and it's like, I didn't even notice that it happened. So it would be nice if occasionally you stopped and said, hey, there was this trade here, especially in the later rounds. I get that, again, everyone's tired, everyone's a little gassed, but again, just a little thing that could go a long way. As for the teams drafting, well, obviously this could only really be better assessed in hindsight, but in the spur of the moment, I definitely say a lot of the bad teams, I think, improved themselves. I actually think teams like the Raiders and Browns actually had pretty good drafts. Now, will it pan out over time? Well, we'll have to wait and see, but overall, I think the Raiders shored up a lot of needs. The Browns actually shored up a lot of needs. Again, I think the one drawback is that quarterback drafting. I think that was a little stupid, especially if you're not going to give up a Shedeur Sanders or Dylan Gabriel. So, yeah, I don't know why you would go add another quarterback into this fray. I also think the Saints had a sneaky good draft. I think the wide receiver picks, obviously I'm a little biased towards Bryce Lance, but still, I think Jordan Tyson and Bryce Lance were really good picks at wide receiver. I think their tight end is going to pan out well. I like that they bolstered their defensive front. So, yeah, I don't know if I'm necessarily going to put them in the playoffs, but again, if things work out pretty well here, I think they'll be greatly improved over the next year. And of course, I think both New York teams really nailed their drafts. Again, shoring up a lot of problems, bolstering their defense, not just going for flashy names. Definitely taking a slow build approach. About the only question I think I would really have is the Jets taking Cade Klubnik, but even then, you know, they're not exactly going to be doing anything with quarterback this year anyway. Now, again, time's going to tell with those two. I'm a little more inclined to go with the Giants just because of the experience with John Harbaugh, that is. So I think they're in probably a slightly better spot than the Jets. But again, if the Jets can just get things together and Aaron Glenn can try to correct the mistakes he made last year, then maybe they could turn a corner and start doing some things and look like a decent team for once. As for teams I don't think did a great job, well, unfortunately, I kind of start with my team, the Minnesota Vikings. Look, Caleb Banks looks like he has the world of talent, but also looks like he had 4 major foot surgeries over the last 2 years. I think they took a real gamble there. I really wish they had worked more on shoring up their offensive line. That was a big problem for them. Or at least getting another receiver, because they kind of need one of those. They lost Jalen Naylor in free agency, and who knows where Jordan Addison is going to be right now. So yeah, they didn't seem to correct a lot of their problems, is what I'm saying. Likewise, I think I'd also have to go with the Green Bay Packers. Now, I understand they went all in with Micah Parsons last year, and that's kind of why they were drafting the way they were this year. But still, I don't think they quite utilized those draft picks as well. They just kind of seemed to take whatever defensive back was available at the moment. I know they missed out on a couple ones they probably wanted, but still, I'm not entirely enthused with the Packers draft. Also, I'm not entirely crazed about the Jacksonville Jaguars draft. Again, I understand they made their big trade for Travis Hunter last year, so that's kind of why they were in the position they were, but it didn't seem like they were trying to bolster anything. They were just picking players to pick players. Likewise, the Houston Texans, I don't think, had a great draft either. Their main problems are at wide receiver, and they need to bolster that wide receiver core. It can't just be Nico Collins. And they only drafted one wide receiver late in the draft. That's not great. I think drafting offensive line first was okay, but I really wish they had done something more too. I don't think they improved in this draft. And that pretty much wraps up my overall thoughts on the NFL draft. So the next video is going to be the random trade review on Thunderbolts Classic Volume 1. I have the book already, so my previous announcement talking about my situation, it really shouldn't affect things. I've officially started the job search this weekend, so hopefully this will be short, but I'm not entirely sure. The next football video is probably going to be for the NFL schedule announcement, whenever that is. See you all next time. Hey guys, remember that you can support my work at patreon.com/sleepytime4cat productions, or just click the link in the description. Also, remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so that you can be made aware of further videos.